Hey y'all. So we have decided that we are going to try our hands at throwing in a few videos from time to time on all the matters that we discussed surrounding Karen Reed. And here I am for our very first video. And it is inspired by a little walk that I took down memory lane yesterday. I was digging up some information from pretty early on in the case, and I ran across this filing by Karen Reed and her defense team from April 12th, 2023. And in this filing, they had this footnote, which I'm not sure if I just don't remember reading this or if I just completely overlooked it. But it definitely kind of took me by surprise. So I wanted to talk about it. So in this footnote, they are claiming that when Karen first discovered John's body at 6:04 a.m. on January 29th, precipitation was minimal and there was no significant accumulation. In fact, they claim that they have photos taken around this time that will establish that there was only about an inch or less of snow that had accumulated. And they also, at the end of this footnote, claim that John's body was clearly visible and appeared noticeably out of place on the Alberts Flat and bare front lawn. And if we go back to Canton cover-up number 1, Aidan Carney's very first blog on this case, we'll see that he too has cited this footnote. And he adds his remark, which is O'Keefe's body was clearly visible as not much snow had accumulated, yet McCabe and Roberts didn't see it. Only Karen Reed did. And he attaches this picture, which is definitely from a little later because it's daylight at this point, although I'm not sure the exact time. But I'm not sure why, because that is quite a bit of snow accumulation. So that's not really proving his point there. But anyway, the other problem with all of this is the actual evidence we have, right? We have dash cam footage from multiple first responders. We have witness testimony, and we have the trial record itself. And all of those tell a very different story than what they are trying to provide in this footnote. I've pulled some of that, so I want to show you that and just compare what we saw from the trial and from testimony to what they wrote in this footnote and what ultimately ended up in Aidan's blog. So the very first thing I have is the defense team's own exhibit from trial number 2. This is the Canton PD camera footage from around 1:30 a.m. the morning of the 29th. This is the footage that supposedly shows Brian Higgins going straight to Canton PD in his murder clothes, a place that has more security cams than your local Bloomingdale's. But from those cameras, we can see just how hard the snow is coming down and how much has already accumulated.
Enhance the time, please. What time is that?
It says 1:34 and 53 seconds in the morning, a.m.
And if you could move the screen over to the individual. Well, does that appear to be the same person?
It could possibly be, yeah.
And does it appear as something in his hands up to his face, the right side of his face or ear?
Yes.
What do you think that is?
It's consistent with a cellular device, possibly a phone or a tablet.
Okay. If we could move on, please. Play that through. And I believe there's one more video. And Your Honor, this one is a little longer. This is about 10 minutes.
Okay.
With the court's permission, I'd like to play this through. Please stop. Do you see a person in the video?
So the second thing I have to show you is just simply a still shot from One Meadows. I didn't download the whole video. We've all seen it so many times, but this is right before John is discovered at 34 Fairview. This is when Carrie, Jen, and Karen went back to One Meadows just to make sure that John was not there after Carrie said that she did not search the house for him after Karen said she did not search the house for him. And so we can see here again, accumulation. You can even tell from the camera just how hard it's snowing. And then the next thing I'm going to pull up is Officer Sarif's dash cam. So if you'll remember, Officer Sarif was the first officer to arrive at the scene. He was actually the very first responder, period. And he arrived there only minutes after Jen McCabe called 911. And as he's driving, you can clearly see just how much snow is coming down and how much has accumulated on the sides of the road.
Our first look at police dash cam as the first officer arrives at a Canton home early that snowy morning.
When I arrived, I saw Miss Reed looked like she was giving CPR to him, and she had blood on her face.
Officer Stephen Sarif says he saw a man face up in the snow, later identified as John O'Keefe. Karen Reed and 2 other women were huddled over him. Seconds later, dash cam video shows jurors a frantic Reed running back and forth in front of the police cruiser.
Miss Reed was visibly upset. She kept saying, this is all my fault. This is my fault. I did this. And she was very hysterical.
Sarif says O'Keefe had no pulse and was cold to the touch.
And then finally, I want to show you or have you listen to Bill Reed's 911 call. Now, I don't have the exact time of this call, but we do know it was still fairly early on. And due to the weather, he was looking for a ride to Good Samaritan Hospital. That's where Karen had been taken or was being taken by ambulance after being sectioned.
911, the San Dakota, what is your emergency?
Dighton?
Yep. What's the problem?
I have a daughter who's been brought to a hospital in Brockton because her boyfriend is a Boston cop and they believe he's passed away and she's suicidal. And I'm her father. And I'm her father. She wants me to come.
Not you. What? You there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and what do you want me to do, sir?
I want to see if I can speak to a Dighton cop or a state police.
About what?
To see if they can possibly get me to her in the hospital.
Excuse me?
All
right. So first thing is, this technically is an emergency because nobody's dying right now. Okay, you need to call on a regular police number if you want to speak to a police officer. Okay?
Are you giving me a break?
Listen, I can't. Listen to me. I cannot transfer you to a police officer.
So it's clear that this footnote was extremely misleading. Dare I say, even an outright lie. And that's exactly why misinformation is so dangerous, right? These claims, and many other false claims, didn't just simply remain buried in these court filings. Instead, they were fed to Aidan Carney, where they were amplified and pushed to massive audiences, beginning with Canton Cover-Up #1 and continuing for 4 years now through additional blogs, social media accounts, YouTube channels, and influencers who presented themselves as truth seekers while often telling people what to believe instead of showing them the underlying evidence. And unfortunately, many people ran with these narratives without ever independently reading the court filings or watching the trials, or maybe only watching part of the trials. How many people have we heard say that they only watched the defense team's side of the trial because the prosecution was boring? So that's part of what's led us to where we are today. And what I wanted to leave you with is that there are just simple questions that everyone should ask themselves whenever they're researching a court case and they come across YouTubers, bloggers, or social media personalities who are already heavily invested in one side of the story. And we are not leaving ourselves out in this either. We understand we are also heavily invested in one side of the story because of the evidence we've found on that side. But the questions that you would want to ask yourself is, are they directing me to read the court filings? Are they encouraging me to watch the trial independently without commentary? Are they showing me actual evidence and testimony? Or are they simply telling me what happened, telling me what to believe, and directing me back to their own pages, channels, and platforms? And if they're not directing me straight to actual legal proceedings, why not? So again, yes, We ourselves, we also discuss facts on our social media platforms. Yes, we have always had our own opinions about things, but we always try to remember to direct you back to courtroom testimony and legally filed documents, because those are the sources we rely on most in our shows and for our content. We don't rely on a blog, not TikToks, not social media rumors, actual legal proceedings. Because in the end, facts shouldn't depend on who has the loudest microphone. They should depend on what can be verified.